An entitled customer freaks out on me after he's not served in a timely manner, and despite the fact that I explained to him that we were completely swamped and that there were only 2 servers in the entire restaurant, this guy simply didn't care, resulting in him cussing my manager out as well as getting kicked out of the restaurant for throwing a glass onto the floor. And I'm honestly still in shock by this guy's behavior, and I seriously hope I never have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so the funniest and saddest thing happened to me tonight. I've been a hostess at my particular restaurant for a while now, and recently I switched up to serving. It is good money. The customers seem a bit more bearable than at my little podium up front, and there's a sense of solidarity in the back of house. Tonight was a bit rough, of course. I mean, it is a Saturday night and we're in a city. Everybody wants to go out to eat, especially the big parties. Well, we were short-staffed tonight and most of our staff got cut early, which left me and the most experienced server by ourselves. We ended up not only losing most of our servers, but also our hostess as well. So naturally, a dinner rush would then ensue. We handled it naturally and we started to seat ourselves. I got a lovely table of 3 who seemed relatively chill, and I told them what was happening with us being short-staffed, and they seemed to be accepting and okay with this. So I get their drinks, their biscuits almost immediately, and about 20 minutes later, I get their food out. I then get a large party, which was no problem. I was a bit caught up, but I handled it fine. I then went to go check up on my 3-top every now and then, and I got them their refills for their drinks, and of course, I got them biscuits. Well, every single time I came around, they wanted more and more biscuits. The last time, they said that it was too doughy, which I thought to myself, oh, that's no problem, I'll go get some more. Eventually, we ended up getting swamped again, but I never forgot about their biscuits. Now, my large party wanted biscuits as well, so I thought to myself, okay, I'll take out 2 birds with 1 stone. As I'm getting their biscuits, one of the members of the party of 3 came up screaming in the kitchen, complaining that they had been waiting for 20 minutes and they needed to check out and get a to-go box. Now, naturally, I was confused because it had been 5 to 10 minutes maybe, and I know this because we have a computer timer for each table, and I was also in the midst of getting them. But even if that was the case, I warned them beforehand that it was only the 2 of us. Well, immediately, I got my manager to go to them because frankly, I'm tired of dealing with hostile and unreasonable people. This guy then starts screaming at her, and when I came up to apologize and to explain once more that it quite literally was just 2 of us and that I'm also new, he literally screamed at me that he didn't care and that he was a server too. My manager told him to leave for cussing, and he responded by throwing a glass down before storming out of the restaurant without paying. So to the man out there that I dealt with, please go get some help because it was only biscuits and it really was not worth all of that screaming. Yeah, I will never understand when customers act this way because seriously, they not only knew that you guys were swamped and they could probably see that you guys were crazy busy, but then they also had the audacity to go into the kitchen and start screaming like a banshee when they themselves are servers. Like, come on, that is so inappropriate. They're either lying to you or they have like no empathy, because if they really were a server, they would be like, oh, it's totally fine, take your time, because they have to know how busy it can get at a restaurant. Like, why would you embarrass yourself like that and treat someone else in your industry in this way? So yeah, that guy was completely out of line, and I honestly cannot stand it when people act like this, especially in a public setting. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My managers at my serving job are overly hostile towards me, constantly micromanaging me and treating me like an idiot anytime something goes wrong. And I'm honestly at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I just started working here last week and I really need the money and the tips are great, so quitting just isn't an option. But I seriously just don't know how to deal with all of this BS. My managers are cool, but they're unnecessarily hostile and aggressive. For example, all servers keep their credit card receipts in a box, and trust me, I'm gonna find a better place to keep mine from now on. I got tipped out about $100 on a small bill, and my manager comes up to me and starts very aggressively and loudly saying, "Why did you throw this receipt in the trash can?" Well, I look down and it's the receipt, so I tell him that I put it in the box and I'm glad he found it, but he just kept on screaming at me, acting as if I intentionally threw it away. Also, nearly every single table that I get, one of them says to me, "You just got sad, where are their waters and setup? Have you even talked to them yet?" And by the way, this is all while my table is very clearly set up and they have waters and I've already put their food in. Like, they don't even look and see if I've done my job. And they will sometimes say this 10 minutes after the table gets sat as well. And they'll even say this about multiple tables, even as one of them is already eating their food. food. Like, what is going on? We also have one server assistant. When I have downtime, as in my tables are 100% fine and they don't need anything, I'll go around to refill waters, restock stuff, bus other servers' tables, etc. And by the way, this takes like 5 minutes max to do this. Well, anytime I do this, my manager walks over to me and freaks out on me, screaming at me that I can't be doing that stuff because I have tables, even after I explain that they're all completely fine. But there's so much more than just this. I keep getting blamed for things, like when another server accidentally rings stuff up on my name. They overcomplicate the crap out of things, and it takes too much time away from what needs to be done. They quite literally just stand around and complain and barely help out. Now, I'm not leaving, as I've had a hard time finding a serving job, so seriously, in this situation, what can I do? Sometimes I take it, but mostly I'm just assertive. Also, am I wrong to think this is crazy, since I've never witnessed this kind of behavior before? I mean, this is not normal. It's actually really strange, and I don't get the thought process here. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I've run into people like this in the service industry, and they are absolutely obnoxious to deal with. They're the kind of managers that basically make people quit. They don't do anything around the restaurant, and they're literally just being a nuisance to everybody actually doing their job. I will never understand this mentality of, oh my god, they're not doing their job, I need to go tell them. Instead of like, I don't know, helping out and doing anything else. Like if the manager was actually managing, then the server in this story wouldn't have to refill waters and restock stuff. They could actually get their stuff done and actually do their job. But instead, you run into managers like this who just sit there and complain. They micromanage everything you're doing, and then they wonder why everybody quits. So from my experience, and I'm not saying that you should do this because who knows how it could go, but in the past when I was a server or a busboy and people would come at me aggressively, I would just match their energy and explain exactly what I'm doing, because there are just some people out there that need to hear exactly what's going on. They assume the worst because you're new, and they're thinking, oh man, you're not doing it right. This is how you need to do it. So I don't know, I'm not sure if there is some good advice. I think the one silver lining here is that once you are seen as reliable, these managers will hopefully back off eventually, because this might just be the case where you are brand new to this job, and they just want to make sure that you're not going to mess it up. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my brother that his fiance is trying to distance him from our family? Because after I told him this, he is now very upset with me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my brother, who's 21, met his 20-year-old fiance 2 years ago on a youth trip. We all met on the bus and decided to team up with her older sister to go to a theme park. It was obvious that they liked each other, but both were too shy to do anything. So I helped set them up by getting her number and arranging another trip. Eventually, my brother asked her out in the parking lot of her job on Halloween, and they have been together ever since. Well, they got engaged after a year of dating, but decided to hold off on the wedding to save more money, which both families agreed on. However, things started going downhill when her mom made it clear that she didn't like us. She would act nice around us, but then talk badly about us behind our backs to her friends at church. And as a result, this caused a lot of people to stop talking to us. When we confronted her, she said that she had the right to say whatever she wanted and started insulting my parents until they kicked her out of the house. Well, this then led to her family leaving our church, which I thought might help things, but her mom then started posting negative things about us on Facebook and was blocking all of us. And my parents were hurt, but they chose not to engage. Around this time, my brother's fiance started distancing himself from us. She used to come over weekly, but eventually started avoiding us altogether, even skipping my older brother's birthday party at our house. Then she started convincing my brother to start skipping family gatherings and to ignore his curfew, staying out until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when he was supposed to be home by midnight. It got worse when we found out he dropped out of college, all because his fiance told him that it wasn't worth it. My parents, who were paying for his schooling, gave him an ultimatum: go back to school or start paying rent. Eventually, he chose school and was able to pick up where he left off. Later, we found out we bought his fiance's old car for double its price because her mom pressured him into it. My parents brought the car back to our house, and it's been sitting in the driveway ever since. Things did seem to improve, and my brother and parents worked out a routine for a while. Then, last December, our church was planning a youth convention. My parents had already bought tickets, but a week before the trip, my brother said that he couldn't go. This caused another fight to break out, and my younger brother and I ended up going with our cousin instead. When we got back, I found out my parents had grounded my brother because his fiance had given him an ultimatum. If he went with us, then she would break up with him. Fast forward to now, and there's another youth rally coming up, and he said that he couldn't go because she wanted him to go to her parents' house. I finally had enough, and I told him that she's pulling him away from the family and that he needs to stand up for himself. I also pointed out that he's missed family events and caused a lot of stress to our parents, where I can even hear them crying in their room. Well, my brother got really mad and stopped talking to me, and I don't think what I said was wrong. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, because it really does seem like your brother's fiance is like pulling him away from the family. And in my opinion, the fact that he acted so negatively and reacted so strongly to you telling him the truth, in my opinion, kind of shows that yes, he knows this is what's happening. And it's also really concerning that she's giving like ultimatums to this guy, because that is never a good sign. So no, you're not the jerk for telling the truth, because I think that your brother absolutely needed to hear this. I feel completely stuck in my job as a hostess, doing quite literally everything around the restaurant, while the servers around me barely lift a finger and still make bank at the end of the night. And right now I feel so distressed that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a sports bar, and I was promised a server position when I applied. They said that I'd be moved to serving after 2 weeks of hosting. Well, fast forward and I'm still hosting. I'm stuck at $10 an hour, doing way more than just hosting duties. I run food, I bus all the tables alone, I keep the sections clean, I manage all the sectioning, and guess who gets to deal with all the angry customers? Because if you guessed me, you would be right. Meanwhile, the servers basically just take orders, and then they take home about $1,000 every busy weekend. I get a $5 tip out from each server, which feels like a slap in the face, considering the amount of work I do to keep their sections running smoothly. Now, the worst part about it is that I've been looking for other jobs, but the market is trash. It feels impossible to find anywhere else that's actually hiring. To top it all off, all my coworkers and even my bosses tell me that I'm the most hardworking and motivated employee here, and yet they still won't move me up. The excuses are endless. First, they told me, we aren't hiring any more servers, but then they just kept hiring more people. When I asked them again, they said they would think about giving me a raise as a hostess, but guess what? That didn't even happen either. When I complained again, they ended up cutting my hours, and suddenly I went from being the best employee to someone who wasn't motivated or even trying hard enough. Meanwhile, we constantly have servers who just won't show up, and nothing happens to them ever. So can anyone please explain how this makes sense? I'm overworked, I'm underpaid, and I'm stuck in a job that doesn't seem to value what I bring to the table. I know I need to leave this job, but I've been desperately applying, and I'm leaving my resume with people for what feels like forever, and I can't seem to find anything in my area. What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, you need to understand that these people are taking advantage of you. They're keeping you in a host position because you are doing such a good job, and they know that moving you to a server position means that they have to find another host to take over, which from the sounds of it seems like that is not something they want to do, which is an awful thing to do because it puts you between a rock and a hard place. You're clearly overworked and they just don't care. And guess what? If you complain, they're going to cut your hours. And you can see the manipulation in this post. They tried to like butter you up and be like, oh, you're the best employee ever. But the second you complain, they're like, oh, you want to complain, do you? Okay, then we're just going to cut your hours. They are literally trying every angle to keep you down and keep you quiet while also making you work like crazy. These people don't give you a raise, they're overworking you, and they're refusing to give you the serving position they promised you. So honestly, if I was in your shoes at that point, I would basically only do what my job entails. I'm not going to go above and beyond for anybody if I'm not going to be rewarded for what I'm doing, because that's how you get taken advantage of. And these people are doing that to you. They've basically convinced you that if you work hard enough, then you'll be a server, but in reality, they just want you to work harder without ever getting the reward you want. They're dangling this carrot over your head just to make you move faster. So truly, this is so toxic and it is so awful, and you definitely deserve another job. And I really hope for your sake that you find something else sooner than later. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's sister that she needs to move out or start paying rent, as she has now been staying in my house for a month after she said she would only be here for a few days so that she could find student accommodation? Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I own a 2-bedroom condo in the city. Recently, I've started working a job where I'm in a different city Monday through Friday and only spend the weekend at home. A month ago, my boyfriend asked if his sister, who had just started college, could stay with us for a few days while also looking for student accommodation. And you know what? I said okay. As mentioned, I'm away Monday through Friday for work anyways, so it doesn't affect me that much. Well, fast forward and it's been a month, and his sister still lives at my place rent-free. I had subtly mentioned to my boyfriend a few times that she needs to move out soon, but the answer was always to say, oh, she's been looking but nothing has ever worked out yet. So this weekend, I finally had enough, and I told my boyfriend that his sister either moves out this coming week, or she better start paying me the same amount that she would pay for student accommodation. I mentioned that I'm feeling taken advantage of, and that if I didn't have a spare bedroom, his sister would surely have already found accommodation elsewhere, and that at this point, I feel like she's dragging her feet. He said she's family too, and that I'm too calculating. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, you're not being too calculating. You're definitely being taken advantage of. Like, no, for starters, you're not the jerk, because clearly she just doesn't want to find anywhere else to live. So in my opinion, asking her to pay rent is completely reasonable. There's nothing wrong with you expecting that, and the fact that your boyfriend is like, oh, come on, she's family. She's having a hard time finding anything else. Like, that seems a little unbelievable in my opinion, because they've had a month to figure this out, and at least find some other place to live for college. Because this behavior, especially after she hasn't been like checking in with you, in my opinion, is easy proof that she is definitely taking advantage of you. Am I overreacting? When I got upset that my mom rearranged my entire house while I was out, because right now we are very pissed off, and at this point we seriously don't know what to do. So my mom had friends come into town this weekend, and one of them is an interior designer, and she asked if they could come see my new house that my husband and I purchased 3 months ago. Now we both work full time, so we are still in the process of unpacking and making the house feel like our own. We don't have all of our paintings hung up, for example, and we don't have all the furniture needed to furnish the whole house. My mom presented their visit as an opportunity for her friends to figure out what they could give us as a late wedding gift. For example, maybe chairs for the living room or a piece of artwork that would fit in our space. My husband and I were both out when they came by, so I left my key for them, and she texted when they got there. Well, when my husband came home, our furniture in our living spaces had been completely rearranged. The outdoor chairs were now inside, the couches were facing different walls, and artwork had been taken out of our storage and placed in various places around the house that they thought that we would like. My mom even hung a painting and moved one that we had already hung. She had texted me saying she was going to ask forgiveness and not permission for the changes they had suggested. Well, when my husband got home, he called me immediately and was pretty upset. They were just coming to look around, which he agreed to, but not to rearrange our entire house. So I called my mom, who was happily on her way to dinner with her friends. Now, I was also very angry, and I asked why she would do that without asking first. We didn't have much time to talk before her dinner, so she texted me instead. She said that I shouldn't just take my husband's word for everything when I had not been home to see it myself. Well, the next day, she sent me a long text message about how nasty and ungrateful I am, and that my husband can't appreciate how much better their new layout is for our house, and that his negativity towards it is influencing me. But I told her it wasn't the way it was arranged that bothered me, but that she did it all without asking us, and that we trusted her in our home, and she broke that trust by going through our storage and moving things around. She then says to me, "Sorry that I like to rearrange things and that you don't like surprises." My husband is also upset with her because of the things that she said about him, and now that is a whole other issue that we'll have to deal with. So overall, am I overreacting that she came in and rearranged our entire house? I gave her permission to come in, and if I just put it back the way that it was, it wouldn't have become this entire issue. I kind of wish I had just said thank you and moved on so that I wouldn't have to compromise my relationship with her and potentially ruin my husband's relationship with my mom. What should I do? No, you did not overreact at all. This is such a violation of trust, it's not even funny. You agreed to have them look around your house. So the fact that they literally rearranged your entire home and brought stuff out of storage and hung up pictures and did all this stuff without your permission, like that would all drive me crazy. There is no way that's acceptable. So no, I don't think you're overreacting, because what your mom did and her dismissive behavior towards this, in my opinion, is super toxic. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my friend's service dog into my house, all because I'm severely allergic to dogs? Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I have a pretty severe dog allergy, and I recently invited a small group of friends over for a game night. Now, one of my friends has a service dog for his anxiety, which I totally respect, but I told him beforehand that I can't be around dogs because of my allergies. Well, he said it wouldn't be an issue because I could just take allergy medication and keep the windows open. I tried to explain that even with medication, I would still be uncomfortable, and honestly, I don't want a dog in my house for hours. Well, he responded by saying that I was being ableist and not considering his needs, even though I feel like I'm the one who would physically suffer. The rest of the group at this point is split. Some say I'm being unfair to him, and others think that it's reasonable, because it it is my house and it is my health. But right now, I'm starting to second guess myself because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, you're definitely not the jerk. And also, the fact that this person is like, wow, you're being ableist. You're not considering my needs. Like, seriously, that street goes both ways, buddy. You're also not considering their needs. Like, seriously, how selfish can you possibly be? If you need the dog with you because of your anxiety and someone in there has a severe dog allergy, then guess what? You probably shouldn't be there for the party. Like, the fact that they immediately said, oh, you're being ableist. You're not considering anything that I'm going through. Like, that immediately for me is a red flag that this is not a good friend and they're going to weaponize their mental health against you at the drop of a hat. So no, you are definitely not the jerk because the way they're acting, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.